Okay, so top 10 head coaches now. Hey, these top 10 lists have been fun. Create some interesting discussions, so I'm going to make another one now. Again, I've already kind of talked about this when I did my draft of all 32 top head coaches with Kyle on the Sideline podcast, so this might be a bit of a rehash if you've listened to that, and if you haven't, you should check it out. But again, I think it's interesting when I can kind of go in more detail about just my list in particular as opposed to doing a draft style. So that's what we're going to do. And so let's just get started. We'll talk about some honorable mentions, guys like Matt LaFleur and Brian Flores. I really would like to put in the top 10, but I just can't really justify doing it just yet. You also have guys like Bruce Arians, John Gruden, Kevin Stefanski. Those are guys who, again, some people would have in their top 10. I just can't quite do it just yet. Number 10 on my actual list is Frank Reich. I think Frank Reich is really good. A lot of what he's been able to do is impressive. And again, he was in that Coach of the Year conversation when Indianapolis had that sudden surge going from 1-5 to making the postseason with Andrew Luck. Then all of a sudden Andrew Luck retires. He's really had to scramble to try and find some good quarterback play, but has still been able to make the most out of what he's had, which has been competent but not great quarterback play. So he's a guy who always seemingly has a plan for stuff. I'm a big fan of him, and he's a huge reason Philadelphia has a Super Bowl. Number 9, Ron Rivera. What he did with that Washington defense is, again, it's remarkable. I mean, he completely turned around that entire team. I know they only won 7 games in a weak division. I get all of that, but they still had some really good showings, and they appear to be a competent team, and I think you get them some competent quarterback play. This is a team that could be really good next year. I think especially with, part of it is, what do you do? Okay, you're a defensive-minded coach. Well, how was your defense? His defense was good. So he gets here at number 9 on this list. Number 8, I'm going Kyle Shanahan. And, it's kind of funny with Shanahan, right? Because you look at his, overall numbers, and he's only had a winning season in 1 out of his 4 years. But there's a reason for it, right? I mean, you can't blame him for the fact that there's only been 1 winning season, because 3 out of those 4 seasons, it was the first year was rebuilding, the other 2 were injuries, and also he's still been able to have some success with some poor quarterbacks play, but he really just needs a healthy quarterback, and now that he has 2, he should probably get that, so he's a really good coach. Sean McDermott now at number 7 is another guy who I think is really good, and he's kind of just, quietly climbed up the ladder of how we consider good head coaches. Some of these guys, they just break on and immediately we're like, that guy's amazing. Sean McDermott, it was sort of a slow burn with him, and he kind of just slowly got to the point where we all do it now at this point, realize, yeah, you're a great head coach. Everything that you do has seemingly worked out, with the small exception of he still is the guy who started Nathan Peterman. He still does have that. So maybe one mistake in an otherwise nearly perfect 10 years so far for Buffalo, and he's put them in potential Super Bowl consideration. Number 6, I got Sean McVay. So the top 5 I have on my list are what I consider the elite tier. Sean McVay is just barely below that. Part of me wonders, do I have him in the top 5 if he, comes up with a great game plan and wins the Super Bowl? That was not the case. It was the opposite. His game plan did not work out at all, and they lost the Super Bowl. So that's kind of a little bit against him. But again, you look at what he's done, even with some poor talent at times, has still been able to have success. And also, he's just done a great job he's been knocking it out of the park with his defensive coordinator hires. So the fact that he can consistently do that, now, has he been lucky or has he been good? They say 3 is a trend, and he's done it really well twice. So how well will he do the third time? That is what remains to be seen a little bit. But I still like him a lot, and I think he deserves to be on this list pretty high. Number 5, John Harbaugh. Again, some people might have him a little bit higher. I think last year when he won Coach of the Year was very deserving. Typically when a guy wins Coach of the Year, they don't deserve it that much, and someone else deserves it more. He actually deserved it that year. I mean, again, he's kind of got that. He hires both a good defensive coordinator and good offensive coordinator. The defenses ran very creatively. He had the guts to go with Lamar Jackson when I think a lot of people would not have let him be a quarterback. Harbaugh took that chance, and it obviously worked out for him. Regardless of your opinions on Lamar, you can definitely say that they're better off with him than Joe Flacco, who is elite, but that's besides the point. John Harbaugh he's a really good coach, and again, you can't argue with success. He's been successful for a long period of of time. He has postseason success, maybe not recently, but in the past, he has won a Super Bowl. So big fan of John Harbaugh. Number 4, I am going with Sean Payton right here. Sean Payton, he's one of those guys where I just feel like he's completely changed football. And not in major ways, so he maybe doesn't get the credit that some of these other people do, but he's such an innovative mind. I mean, with the Taysom Hill thing, which I guess is pretty creative, that's something that is definitely noticeable, how, bringing a guy on just to sort of run these unique plays, that's very fun. I think the way that him and Drew Brees back in the day kind of really originated the check down option being like a big part of your offense. It had always been a part of an offense, but they were kind of the first that really said, like, no, we're going to literally design plays for a check down, and it had a lot of success. So Sean Payton, obviously, that part is all good. I think you could quibble about some of the leadership stuff. I've always talked about how, when they got screwed against the Rams, they did get screwed. Everyone knows that. But I think the better leadership option in that moment isn't to say we got screwed, but it's to say, you know what? Yeah, we didn't get that, but we're not always going to get the calls. We have to find a way to win in overtime. I think that's just what I personally prefer, but I guess that is sort of, I understand that it's frustrating being in that moment. And again, the X's and O's are fantastic. So it's nitpicky when you get to the top 5 guys. So that's my only real nitpick. Number 3, I'm going with Andy Reid. Andy Reid, another guy who, the X's and O's, incredible, right? And he's had success with 2 different franchises. He's had success with multiple different quarterbacks. And now he's won a Super Bowl and gone to another one with one of the best quarterbacks in football. If you were, having a fantasy style draft, you would pick Mahomes number 1 no matter what. He's clearly the guy. So him and Reid working together. A lot of people would have Andy Reid at number 2. A lot of people aren't going to like my pick for number 2, but I do stand by it. Andy Reid is awesome, though. And again, you could argue sort of the clock management stuff. There are some criticisms you can throw at Reid, but clearly the pros outweigh the cons. Okay, number 2, Mike Tomlin. So I said this on the podcast that I had him at number 2, and people hated it. People were literally saying I'm losing credibility for having this pick. First off, I don't think I have that much credibility to begin with, okay? I'm a YouTuber who talks about football, so let's relax a little. But secondly, I do think there's some very valid things that he's done. He's an awesome coach, and you look at what he's been able to do. Obviously, the main thing is the fact that never had a losing season with Mike Tomlin. Now, he's had 3 8-8 seasons, but still, a team has not been bad that's been coached by Mike Tomlin with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it goes back to 2007, so it's been a minute. It's not a new thing. He has a 650 win percentage in that time. That's amazing. The one criticism you could argue is the playoff success. I think that's the main thing you could say, but I would kind of push back on that a little bit as well and say, well, what is he really supposed to do with a lot of this stuff? The game against Cleveland, what was he supposed to do? What coaching error went wrong there? Ben Roethlisberger started throwing interceptions. There was that fumble at the beginning of the game. That's not coaching. That's just players making mistakes. Sometimes your players are going to make mistakes. The loss against Jacksonville, Roethlisberger kept making mistakes, and then they lost to the New England Patriots, who were awesome in 2016. They did well to get there, and then they couldn't do much else. His postseason record is 8-8, which is a little bit below some of these other guys, but not by much. Andy Reid is 2 games over 500 at 17-15. John Harbaugh, 3 games over 500, and Sean Payton, 1 game over at 9-8. So these guys are all right around the same thing. Tomlin a little bit lower, but again, they win one of those games where they beat Cleveland when Ben Roethlisberger did kind of throw the game away, which maybe you could blame on him, but I don't really agree with that. Now all of a sudden he has the best winning percentage out of any of those guys. It's literally 1 game. So I think it's overblown. I don't get the criticism. I really don't. And maybe that's fine. Maybe we don't have to all agree. Maybe we can value different things with different players. I think he's great. Different coaches. I think he's great. And number 1, of course, it's Bill Belichick. It has to be Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is incredible. And even now, he is still an amazing coach. I think he's an underrated GM too. Everyone talks about, he's made some misses, but he's also consistently gotten guys in the 6th, 7th, and undrafted who have really been able to come on and at least play well and be a part of the team. So, yeah, no, he missed on N'Keal Harry. He didn't draft Nick Chubb. There are some criticisms. There's also a lot well. And just talking about coaching, I mean, for one thing, are you really going to not listen to what Bill Belichick has to say? If he tells you, like, hey, try doing it this way, are you really going to say, no, coach, I think I got it? No, of course not. You are 100% going to do whatever Belichick tells you. So he's already got that, which is great. I mean, again, the guy's got 8 Super Bowl rings, 2 as an assistant and then 6 as a head coach. Like, there's not much that needs to be said about it. You could maybe say, oh, well, there's some guys who have surpassed him at this point in their career. I don't really agree with that, though. I mean, his defense, again, if you really want to challenge people that maybe say that his coaching isn't what it once was, watch the game against the Chargers and watch how that defensive line was constantly just outsmarting the Chargers offensive line last year. That's a great example of just how he can just dominate in certain scenarios there. He's still at the top of his game. Belichick is number 1. So yeah, that's what I have. Let me know what you guys think. And if you disagree, that's awesome. That's cool. Just tell me why. That's all I wanted. I don't mind any comments in the comment section saying I disagree because blah, blah, blah. The only comments that I find annoying are the ones that just say, you idiot, why did you think that? Well, I already told you, but that's my opinion. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.